Welcome to the Athletics of Indiana podcast, and this week we are diving deep into the numbers behind the upcoming matchup between the undefeated Indiana Hoosiers and the, struggling Penn State Nittany Lions. Now on paper, this thing looks totally lopsided, but the data tells a story of absolute dominance versus a complete and total collapse. So, let's get right into it.
And yeah, right away, this slide just lays it all out there, doesn't it? It shows the massive gap between these two programs this year. You've got the number 2 ranked Hoosiers, absolutely perfect, chasing a playoff spot. And then you've got a Penn State team that's just in a total free fall, can't buy a win in their conference, and is dealing with a midseason coaching change. I mean, these are two programs going in completely opposite directions.
Okay, so to really get why this matchup feels so skewed, we've got to look at what makes this Indiana team tick. Let's dig into the anatomy of this juggernaut and really break down the engine that's been powering them all season.
It really all starts with this number right here, 46.4 points a game. That isn't just good, you guys. That is elite. We're talking top 5 in the entire nation. They're not just winning games. They are putting up straight-up video game numbers and just blowing teams off the field.
And they get all those points by just dominating the field, churning out over 500 yards of offense every single game. But what's really fascinating here isn't just the huge yardage number. It's how they're getting it. This is not a one-trick pony. It's a masterclass in offensive balance that just wears defenses down quarter after quarter.
And here's a look under the hood of that machine. The rushing and passing yards are almost perfectly split, which makes them an absolute nightmare to game plan against. But the number that really jumps out at you, that third down conversion rate, almost 59%, that is just soul-crushing for a defense. You add in the fact that they just don't turn the ball over, and you've got an offense that controls the ball, controls the clock, and controls the scoreboard.
But here's the thing. This team is not just some offensive powerhouse. As the source material puts it, and I love this, the Hoosiers' defense is a brick wall. And trust me, the stats we're about to see, they back that up big time.
And this chart right here really shows you just how tough that wall is. They're only allowing a measly 12.1 points per game. That is third best in the entire country. You know, it's one thing to score over 46 points, but when your defense is only giving up 12, well, the math for winning gets really, really simple.
So what's the secret sauce? It's turnovers. A plus 12 turnover margin is just staggering at this level of football. This isn't just about getting lucky bounces. It points to a super aggressive ball-hawking defense that forces mistakes. They're not just stopping offenses. They are actively ripping the ball away and giving it right back to their high-powered offense, a lot of times with a short field to work with. It's the perfect example of complementary football. All right, now let's flip the script and look at the other side of this thing. If Indiana's season is the story of a juggernaut, Penn State's is truly the anatomy of a complete collapse. We're not just talking about a few losses here, we're looking at a total systemic breakdown.
And the difference starts right here on the scoreboard. While Indiana's putting up almost 47 points a game, Penn State is barely managing 30. That's more than a 2-touchdown gap in scoring average, and it points to some fundamental problems on offense.
And when you dig into why, you see the problems are, they're everywhere. The passing game is struggling, sure, but that feels like a symptom. The real problem, the thing that's killing them, seems to be this porous offensive line that just gives up sacks and disrupts any kind of rhythm. When you put their dismal 44% third down rate next to Indiana's nearly 59%, you're looking at an offense that just can't stay on the field.
Now you might think, okay, maybe their defense can keep them in the game. But that unit has completely crumbled during this losing streak. They're giving up over 28 points a game in their recent losses. And honestly, that's just a recipe for disaster against an offense as explosive as Indiana's. The core issue seems to be what the analytics are calling a leaky run defense. In simple terms, they are getting absolutely gashed on the ground consistently. Allowing over 4.5 yards every time the other team runs the ball, that is a massive, massive red flag. Especially when you're about to face a balanced attack like Indiana's that is built to exploit that exact weakness. So we've gone through the on-field stats. Now let's see how the wagering analytics, the folks who analyze these numbers for a living, are seeing this game. And as you're about to see, the numbers, they don't lie. They paint a very clear picture. And there it is. Indiana is a massive 15.5-point favorite. If you look at the money line, the market is basically giving the Hoosiers an 88% chance to win this thing outright. What the professional analysis is telling us, screaming at us really, is that this is expected to be a blowout, not a close game,
a blowout. And the key betting angles from the report all point in the exact same direction. The data suggests Indiana won't just win, but they'll cover that huge 15.5-point spread. And with Indiana's crazy offense and Penn State's leaky D, the game total is expected to go over. But maybe the most telling bet of all? The data says to expect Indiana's running back to have a monster day against that vulnerable run defense.
So after breaking down the offense, the defense, and what all the sharp analytics are saying, the source material really only points toward one logical conclusion for how this game is going to go.
The final predicted score, based on all that data, is Indiana 41, Penn State 17. And you know, I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial here. Based on every single piece of data we've just looked at, this doesn't just feel like a prediction. Honestly, it feels like a foregone conclusion.
And here's the big takeaway from all this. This game really does look like a fundamental mismatch. The Hoosiers have more talent, a better scheme on both sides of the ball, and all the momentum in the world. They seem perfectly built to just overwhelm a struggling, demoralized Penn State team.
So that brings us to the big question we want to leave you with. We've laid out all the data, and it all points to an Indiana landslide. But we all know college football can be crazy. So, is a mid-season coaching change at Penn State enough of a spark to overcome this huge statistical gap and pull off a massive upset? Or is this Indiana team just simply unbeatable right now? Let us know what you think down in the comments.